Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Tell us about this new venture of yours. It's national. It's all about national service, which that's not necessarily new. But what are you going to be doing now?
Yeah, I mean, my commitment to national service is longstanding. I believe that we should reinstitute some form of universal national service. And the whole idea is to support ROTC graduates going to college, help them kind of in that last mile, but to reinforce the knowledge and the concept of service over self, and the idea that you have to give something back. We all talk about rights, but rights comes with responsibilities, and we've lost that focus. And this is not going to tip the scales massively, but I think it's really, really important to have in their universities kids that are doing something larger than themselves. And then on a personal note, our son is in the Navy and Navy Intel. In fact, what kind of motivated him was he used to work at UCLA, he used to work out with the ROTC kids. And he said, I should do something. And so hopefully we'll have a multiplier and we reinstitute, which has been lost in the country, this culture of service and giving something back, of doing something, not just for yourself, but for the greater good of the community. And I think it's the most rewarding thing to do. And again, I think we're going to pick a dozen kids a year for and help them go to college.
And they're going to go to a couple of qualifiers.
Yeah.
They have to have done ROTC in high school.
In high school in Chicago.
And they also are going to pick a university
in Illinois.
And why is that?
And stay with the ROTC program. Not just ROTC when you were in high school, ROTC in college, because I want that type of service here to any private or public university. You pick in Illinois, we're going to help you out. And we'll work out with Chicago Public School students.
And any problem in finding these kids? I bet there's plenty of them that want to do it.
Well, there'll be more. I mean, based on what CPS kind of looked at it for us, I suppose there's kind of net 50. And so we're going to they're going to help us pick a dozen. And need will be one basis. Further commitment to ROTC will be another. And the third will be staying in Illinois.
And obviously ROTC means that you do get free tuition, whatever, but you don't get to live for free.
No,
so
there's books, there's a whole set of costs. But again, I want to create a culture of rewarding service and upholding it. And I will say, Marion, when we were in Japan, one of the most touching moments was the Navy knew that I had done citizenship ceremonies at City Hall. So they asked the first month that I would come down and conduct a citizenship ceremony on the Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier that was based in Japan. And there were 17 individuals, 11 countries, 3 continents, picked to serve America, and they weren't even citizens. And one of the things that we have lost, we all identify as individuals or part of this group, part of that group. You're Americans. That was the foundation of the Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier. And these were not Americans, but they served the values, the interests, and the security of America. And this was the ROTC program was a way of reinforcing what I think was so strong as a culture and a value system. And I think the second thing was during the Olympics. You remember when everybody was applauding all the diversity of our women's gymnastics team appropriately. But they forgot that wrapped around their shoulders was this thing called the American flag. And you can't have diversity if there's not a foundation that we all share. And I think it doesn't take an insight to say that's been frayed. Our politics, our society, our social media has become slightly like the Hunger Games. We all put our Braveheart paint and we go at it. Here are people that are serving something, not themselves, not their own interests, not their own kind of careers, but they're serving something bigger than themselves, and that's called America.
There are going to be, of course, those who are going to say, okay, this is what he's doing because he wants to keep an eye, or those to have an eye on him as you seek to figure out what you want to do next.
Well, first of all, if that was the case, I would name it after me. I'm not doing that. Second of all, no good deed goes unpunished. And third, I'll let anybody, they can say whatever they want. When they see these 12 kids, that's what's the focus.
Children First is the name of it.
No, it's going to be about Service USA.
Okay, so you will have, I thought it was called the Children First Fund.
Yeah, that's the fund at the CPS. Children's Fund, that's the fund that we're going to contribute to, and it will be there.
Okay, all right. But back to as you do
I knew
this.
it, Marianne, I want to give you credit. It only took you 4 questions to get to the most cynical part of this whole.
Not cynical at all. As you know, as you walk in the building, people come up and say to you, "What's next?" and they want you to do something.
Yeah.
So tell us where. I know you're going to tell me that you're not done with public service.
Yeah, you got it.
But
the first time I ever said it, I said it to you, and that's what I'm going to say again. Look, here's the thing. We'll figure that out. I'll figure it out. And I got to have something to say. I got to have something that I contribute that I think makes a difference. When I figure out what that is, if I want to run, I'll run. I've been both appointed under President Obama as Chief of Staff, under President Biden as Ambassador to Japan. I've run for office. There will be due time. But I'm back 3 months, and this is something I wanted to do. And I really don't want the focus to be what I'm going to do, focused on what these kids can contribute. That's more important to me.
But there is also this lack in the Democratic Party of where it's headed.
You noticed.
And you are part
I can't believe we hid that from you that long.
You were part of the discussion. I mean, you made the CNN bracket as far as who might be the next president. But what about that?
That's the peak. It's all downhill from there.
What about that? I mean, Governor Pritzker is out there campaigning. He's in LA this past week. Are you also campaigning in a different way?
No, look, to me, one of the things that, this nationally, I started my career working for President Clinton. He always used to say, I can still hear, look, there's nothing bigger that's never forgotten in politics than ideas are the most important thing you contribute. And that's what he would always say. He says, it's always the most undervalued thing in politics is ideas. My focus is to make sure that I have something distinct to say, think, and also have a theory of the case of what it is. It's not just about fighting Donald Trump, although that's important. I want to make, if I do anything, if I choose to do anything, about fighting for the middle class that I think have gotten the shaft. And I think they're being betrayed by this president. I think the country as a whole hasn't served the middle class. I think they and their children have been shafted. And that, to me, is the most important thing to think about.
What about your relationship with Governor Pritzker? Is it frayed because of your interest?
No, not at all. We're both friends. We're both grown-ups about politics. And again, I haven't decided to do anything.
By not deciding is deciding as well.
What are you, a rabbi? Who made you a rabbi? That's so kind of Talmudic. I'll decide. Marianne, you're not going to get me to change, okay? I'm not done with public service, and I'm hoping it's not done with me. And when it comes, I'll figure it out.
We got to get your thoughts on the controversy of the week, the Signal Gate. Can you weigh in on that? And this discussion of whether it was classified or not classified.
Let me say 2 things. Having participated in many discussions on taking out a terrorist, high-value terrorist, the process we used to run, evaluating the pros, the cons, the collateral damage, etc., all secret, all done, a lot of it done in Situation Room. The planning preparation, although I was in one meeting and then this Osama bin Laden exercise was done for practice and thinking about it for 6 months. Never leaked, because there's secure operation. You would risk the men and women that are about to put, if the president chose, and he did, President Obama, boots on the ground. The idea that you have literally both planes in the air, ships in there, that you're doing it on not the most insecure, but clearly not the appropriate channel. Second, I think the new moniker for this national security team of Donald Trump's is Dumb and Dumber. I cannot think, and you can pick who's dumb applies to and who dumber applies to. I've never seen anything like this. And it's pretty clear to me, third and finally, that given the material that the Secretary of Defense was basically cutting and pasting, there is another signal chat line going on, because when you have operations like this, there is a ops team planning. So they were clearly working on signal, unless you think the Secretary of Defense was taking a document and typing this by himself. He was cutting and pasting from another document on another signal chat group.
Should he resign?
Well, I think first of all, I think that you should have an inspector general. I don't trust the FBI, I don't trust the Justice Department, I don't trust the National Security Council. An inspector general should get to the bottom of this, not just for this instance, but to, think of this. One of the accusations that Jeffrey Goldberg got in on his own. Well, if he got in, the Chinese, Russians, and the Iranians are in. If you think that's true, which is one of the excuses given by the Trump administration, that means the Chinese and Russians and the Indians and the Iranians are in on this. If you think a reporter can just walk in on a Signal group chat, so I think there should be an inspector general, and I think that if there's a clear violation of the law, clear violation of our national security, clear violation of putting men and women in uniform at risk, they should be held accountable. I don't think he should ever have been appointed. You fired the head of the Joint Chiefs, 4-star general with an impeccable record. You fired the CNO of the Navy. That's the judgment of the President of the United States. And you hired a man with a drinking problem and a sexual abuse problem. Anything the President has is judgment, because you never have 100 to 0. It's a 50.01 to a 49.99. And the only thing that counts to make the difference is the judgment of the President. So think about this. We fired the head of the Joint Chiefs with an impeccable record. I work with CQ Brown. You fired the CNO of the Navy, who ran a strike group, so we could have a man with a drinking problem and a sexual harassment problem. Incredible judgment.
You're known for saying never let a good crisis go to waste. What
Well,
about
there's
this
plenty.
one?
Well, one of the things we know so far of the Trump White House is they're very good at breaking things. We have yet to see them build a thing. Look, take a look at Social Security. Grandma's on the phone for 5 hours with nobody to answer on a Social Security check. They announced today, you and I are sitting down, 10,000 people are fired from Medicare and Medicaid administration. Wait till you try to figure out your premiums and your pharmaceutical prices, drugs, and your reimbursement rates. Who? Breaking is easy. As Colin Powell said to George Bush before Iraq, you break it, you own it. They're breaking things. I've never seen them build something.
And yet the Democrats are so over the map on how to fix it.
Well, how to fix it? It depends on what you mean what the it is. So I would look. I'm not so sure I take the kind of CW on this. There are things that have to be worked out among Washington Democrats. Democrats are winning elections. They just won a special election in Pennsylvania. Hadn't had that seat since 1859. They're winning one in Minnesota. They're winning 1 out of 2 in Iowa, all Republican districts. So I think it's more a tale of two Democratic parties, where the elections count, Democrats are doing well. Where it comes to combating the Trump administration, they got their work cut out for them. Okay?
All right.
Marianne, we're doing
one
like
last one.
No,
One
no.
last one.
You got to say something about the kids, or this will that will be the last time I say that.
Not at all. I have my last one right here.
Okay.
And you already somewhat answered it, but
Then
this
stick
part
with that
about
answer. It was a good answer.
No. That this is personal to you, and it is because not only of your son, your daughter as well, and your family history, that this whole decision you could have done, and you probably are giving things in other ways. But you thought about this and said, this is the route I want to make sure I take.
One is, I think if you go back to the book I wrote with Bruce Reed and the plan, there's a whole chapter about national service and about what it means, and we should reinstitute a mandatory universal at least 6 months of national service. That's what I believe. I think we should require, as part of your citizenship, giving something back to this great country. This country has provided, as a child and a grandchild of immigrants, great opportunity. You should contribute. I think we have lost that value. Everybody talks about their rights. There should be as much discussion of your responsibilities. These kids in the ROTC at an early age exuded those qualities of citizenship, responsibility, not to themselves, but to something bigger. It has had an impact on our children. It's influenced their judgment. And if in some small way, we as a family, who much is given, much is expected, can help these kids get through college, continue a life of service, we're going to do it.